Morning, welcome everyone to another Freedom Legacy podcast. And I've got the amazing, powerful, dynamic Mirav Taka with me today, all the way from Italy. And we're going to be exploring some really incredible topics around mindsets, self-defense, hopefully. And before I kind of babble on any further, Mira, why don't you just give everybody a quick introduction to who you are? Lovely to see you. Over to you.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Finn. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you all. I am Mirav, and I am a 30-year-old Israeli living here in South Italy, single mom to two beautiful little Wonder Women. I've been through a lot in my life till now. Went through 4 wars in Israel, a few pretty harsh relationships, moving countries, moving cities, becoming a single mom, going through divorce, all of that jazz, all of it shaping me into who I am today. And really happy to be here. Just tell me what you want to know.
Awesome. Now, listen, we've known each other a little while, and I've seen kind of some of the stuff that you're putting out there, and the dynamism and the inspiration that you're giving women in particular. And I guess that a lot of that was shaped by your experiences in the Israeli Defense Force. And I also know that you were a self-defense instructor and so on. And can you just tell us a little bit more about that background? Because I get a sense that that's really fueled your coaching and your philosophy.
Well, the self-defense world has been an integral part of my life for many years. I don't feel that it has shaped me as much as I shaped it because it kept on changing with me. I've been a self-defense expert, especially with the female self-defense. I have taught all over the world. It started in Israel. In Israel, our schools teach us to defend ourselves ever since we're 5 years old. Because of the political situation in Israel, I personally have been attacked by the other side. Try not to be politically incorrect here. A few times, and I've served in the military. But my life has been more shaped by my environmental circumstances, people around me, relationships that I had. I had violent relationships, including my marriage, which was very violent and very abusive. And so, as a woman, I had to deny that part of me, that feminine part of me, that receiving part of me for many years because I needed to protect myself and to survive things that a normal person in normal today's world doesn't have to survive. So that is what shaped me. I had to become a man in some ways, even as a child, as I didn't get much support at home. So I parented myself a lot. Part of my story was about being thrown out of the house of my parents. I wasn't that young. I was 20. I just finished military. And so when I was thrown out of their house to the streets without even clothes to my body, I lived in the streets for a few days until I was picked up by a friend. That had a huge influence on me. Also psychologically, of course, and emotionally, it created a lot of, they call it in Hebrew, like a ricochet, like, PTSD, and attracted a lot of wrong people to me, which required a lot of force for me to survive that. And a lot of mental force for me to get out of that mentality of survival, which happened only years later. Krav Maga, self-defense, actually didn't serve me in my personal life. It served me in my professional life because I was in a very fragile emotional state. I was constantly rejected, I was constantly humiliated and abused, and the victim mindset has taken over my own mindset for those years. It was years later that I managed to actually apply what I learned physically into my personal life, and I managed to grow out of it. And that is when I understood that there is nothing physically as strong as your mind, because once I got the right mindset, I wasn't attacked anymore, I wasn't abused anymore, and that was the best self defense. And that is when my teaching got to a completely different level, because instead of just teaching someone how to punch correctly, how to defend against strangling, all of that I can do with my eyes closed. But to teach someone how to protect themselves energetically, how to change the mindset, how to have the courage to say no, and to set boundaries, and to live in a world of conflicts without being involved in those conflicts, that has been a huge shift for me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So there's a lot there. God, that I find that really fascinating. That despite the fact that you can defend yourself physically, it was the mental fragility that you had that
Yeah,
was attracting all, or continuing to attract all the negative experiences in life. And then when it's I think it's so fascinating that when we make the shift up here, then that's where the superpower is. That's where you
that is
kind
what
of
it's for.
that's where you make the big leaps.
Exactly.
And was there anything in particular that started that shift or made you aware of that shift, or was it just a part of a process of going, I need to change my thinking?
No, it was one specific moment that started that shift. So
Right.
okay, there are moments that I can record as a pivot moments in my life, like when I decided to leave Israel, because in my mind, at that time, it was Israel's fault. It was the circumstances' fault. It was the war's fault, my parents' fault, which, yes, they all contributed to that. But the truth was, I wasn't centered enough to take control, because things that happen around us are not our fault. There is no blame there, but it is our responsibility to do whatever we can in our reaction, and in what we can do to avoid this, or to upgrade, or to learn from that, and so on. So I remember when I was growing through all that shit in Israel. Like, it was a time that I was between houses because I couldn't afford to pay the rent. I was bicycling my bicycle underneath bombs and rain and everything to go and teach people house to house, so I can have enough money to eat. And that was money that I could put in my pocket and didn't go to the bank, because in the bank I had constant debts, and I was sad and hungry and really, really poor. I would have, let's say, €5, and I would just go and buy a bottle of vodka, because that made me forget how hungry I was, you know. And it created also some kind of a dependence. I didn't have any drinking problem, but I prefer to buy a bottle of vodka so I don't have to spend that on food. And it just made me forget, and it helped me to sleep. So it was,
Escapism. Yeah.
yeah. And in that time, I had all the instruments around me. Like, I had a friend, and he one day gave me a USB key with the movie The Secret in Hebrew, and he said, "This will change your life." And I watched it, and I was like, "This is bullshit. This is all woo." And he gave me a book, and he even did my shopping for a whole month, so I would have enough food. And I blessed him, but I didn't understand. It didn't click in. And when I decided to leave Israel, it was just me running away. It wasn't me understanding anything. And I came to Italy, and the first year or two were horrible, because again, I was in the street. I didn't know the language. I didn't have any friends. I was washing toilets with my bare hands because I couldn't afford gloves, for 3-4 euros a day, just to have enough to eat. My dream was, okay, I'll just make enough money and I'll fly back to Israel. And I was there. I remember I was washing the toilets, and I was just I got this really cheap MP3, the little devices that, and I was listening to Tony Robbins' Personal Power every single day. But that was my escape. I wasn't applying anything. It was just like listening to him, so I can live in that while I'm washing toilets and ignore the fact that I'm washing the toilet. And there was still no shift. And I went into abusive relationships also there, and I was very, very low with my energies. And then one day, looking for work, I found a job in another city, a close by city. I went there in the 5:30 train because nobody checked the tickets in the 5:30 train a.m. I walked to gyms all around the other city, and I offered myself as an instructor. I faked self-confidence. They bought into it. I started training and gaining confidence there because people really loved what I did. So my energy started upgrading, and in one of the lessons I met my first life coach, and he asked me for help with his back, and I helped him. And he asked me how much does he owe me, and I'm like, no, nothing. You're a gym client, so it's like, this is completely wrong. You shouldn't be like that. You gave me a service, you should be paid for. And I wasn't in that mindset. I was like, it's okay. And he said, okay, I'll give you something else. I'll give you my life coaching course, which was $2,000. And he gave it to me. That was the biggest gift anyone could have given me ever. Yeah. And I didn't understand it at the time. I was like, what the hell is life coaching? What do you want? So like weird to me. And I didn't know enough Italian. All I knew was the numbers and ciao bella and vai vai, which means go go. So that was like my whole lessons in the gyms were all the numbers and vai vai, and then and then I just started shouting in English. And I went to do the course because it was free for me, and I was curious. And I remember the first day, it was full of people that I've never met. Everybody speaking Italian, I am understanding nothing. And this coach, this guy Dario, he's like showing things on the screen, and then there's like a part of a movie of Matt Damon, and I understand that because it's in English, although there's subtitles in Italian. And then he speaks and speaks, and I have no idea what he's saying, but I have tears running down my eyes. Like I was crying. It wasn't sadness. It was like huge release, but it was a lot of tears. And I was like, I have no idea what he's saying, but my subconscious mind understood everything. And I'm like, how could this be woo-woo? How could this not be real when what I feel is so real? And then I was shocked. And I was with my little vocabulary in English, Italian, Hebrew, Italian, and trying to understand what the heck he was saying. I couldn't understand. He was talking so fast. I took a pen and I started writing the words that he said in Italian in Hebrew, Hebrew letters, so I can later ask someone or whatever. And I was thinking I should record this. I was looking around me and I see everybody crying. I wasn't the only one. And in the end, I went to him and I said, I have no idea what you were talking about, but look at me. And he said, I was talking about self-love, amore. And I was like, I need to understand what he was saying. So I got all the books that he had there, and I sat down in the home and I read them for hours, trying to understand each word in my language. And the more I understood, and I applied all the exercises, and people would see me in the gym the next day and say, your eyes are different, your posture is different. That was my shift.
Which is shift. Amazing.
Yeah, that way it was. I looked all my life for ways to learn to love myself, because it just seemed like, everybody tells you, love yourself, but how the fuck do you do that? You go to psychology. I went to psychologists, and they would talk about the past and dig in there and talk about how would you change that and how do you feel, but no one gave me instruments. And in those courses that talk about self-development, they give you instruments. This is what you do. You just, this is what you do from now on. And then shortly after I opened my first self-defense course, I stopped working in the gym. After a while, I was taking all the clients away to do self-defense with me. And the more I did something that I loved and I could do without depending on someone else, the more my self-confidence grew. And I still didn't know enough Italian, but I was learning from these books because I really wanted to understand what he was saying. I kept on working on my self-love, and it just attracted people. I opened my first school in Italy, and things moved very fast. I became really famous in my city. Uh, obviously I stopped cleaning toilets, and I was just yeah, I was just, but it was an experience that served me because that was one of my rock bottoms. It wasn't my
Yeah.
only one, but that was, I remember the moments. And um, I opened a course and then another course, and soon I had like 8, 9 courses of self defense going around in the city. And I started being called to courses around Italy because everybody was talking about, the Israeli that is doing weird things in, in the south of Italy. I did loads of weird things. I was the first one in the world who did a self defense seminar inside an airplane while it was flying. I met this crazy pilot that would do all kinds of weird things. And then I was like, okay, let's bring a terrorist in the airplane and do this and do that. I did seminars in pubs. I got people drunk to do seminars so they can, understand how to react when they are
Oh
drunk.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I did all kinds of weird things. And I got really famous for that. I was on TV and magazines and everything. And then I started traveling Italy to just teach seminars all around. And then I started traveling Europe to teach seminars around, and things just evolved from there. So all it took was that one back treatment that I gave to the right person who saw in me. Like, I remember him saying, "You constantly look down. Your eyes are constantly on the floor. You're living in your past. Now imagine that your past are you fill up 2 suitcases with your past, and you just leave the suitcases behind, and you walk forward, tell your story, and never look back, and just walk forward. Don't think about your parents. Don't think about whatever you've been through. Don't think about Israel or whatever. Just walk forward." And that was a huge shift. Then I had a period of time that I forgot all of those lessons because I got married to the wrong person, if that exists, and because everything is an experience that serves you. But I stopped prioritizing my well-being, my mental state, and so on.
And but that seems to be part of your coaching now. Yeah. What you
Yeah,
advocate is that you've got to really dedicate and focus
yes,
on the self and prioritizing the self.
yeah.
Doing, and that elevates everything else around you.
Yes, and
So
never stop. Like, it's not, there's no top of a mountain here. We are climbing on a mountain without a top. And it's
okay,
actually
lovely.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful, yeah, because there's always another level that you can climb to. There is always more that you can do. And when I took a pause because I felt, okay, I'm already there. It was kind of an arrogant moment with me, like, okay, I love myself enough now. I got married. I'm happily ever after. So I thought. And I dropped my guards. I stopped working on myself, and old beliefs creeped up. My marriage was abusive. I wasn't treated the way that I should be treated, but that's because I didn't treat myself the way I should be treating myself. So that was my responsibility. I didn't walk away when I should have. I didn't. This is not self blame. It's like responsibility in a way that I will not let that happen to me again. I would not go there again. And when my marriage ended, I was broken, if you can be broken, but not because my heart was broken, but because all what I've built, all my self esteem, all my confidence, all my self worth, my femininity, I let someone take away my power. We do that. We give away. Nobody can take your power if you don't allow them to do that. And I allowed it to happen.
I think that's such a great point because you know I spend a lot of time in the personal development space, and people say, oh, it's about empowering others and so on. And for me, it was a thing of it was something I had to go and do. And
Yeah.
actually, the power is always there.
I
We
was there.
I,
Yeah.
I, I didn't understand that,
You
and
just need
it's
to
it
remember this is what I do with my work. I
yeah
I don't create power like energy. You cannot create it. It's
no
always there, but you need to tap into it, connect to it, and nurture it. And
yeah
like your body, you remind that energy, you remind that power that that it exists and that, you wake it up.
I love that. I say that again. You remind it that it exists, and
Yeah.
I think that is that's such a great way to think about it. It's constantly just reminding that it's there all the time, whether it's through your body or your spiritual practice and so on. But it's a constant. It's a re-waking of that power on a continual
Yeah,
basis,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. And everybody has it. Everybody has that power. I like to call it power of warrior because it saved my life. But now it doesn't need to save my life anymore. So it serves me because it's that power that, if you see your child underneath a bus and you're able to lift that bus because in that moment it is so important for you that that power of warrior comes out. That's an emergency. Everybody has that. But when you don't have an emergency, that power kind of goes to sleep in you.
Yeah.
And then when you need it, it's not as powerful. It's like not going to the gym for a while. The muscles are still there, but they don't have the potentiality that they could have because you didn't train them. So if you constantly train your power, remind it that it's there. And also, on an energetic level, if you cannot go to the gym or you don't have time or something, you can still train that power um, through just talking to it and saying, thank you for being there. Thank you for giving me that breath of life. Thank you for being there for times that I need to survive. Now I need you to live my unstoppable life. And this is what I do with my clients. And you can see how people shift when they connect to their power. I work in a physical and mental level, but it doesn't have to be physical. It can be just you deciding, okay, I have the power to change my life. I have the power to do this. I have the power to avoid a conflict or not to be with the wrong person or not to get another smack in my face because I'm too scared to leave the idea of a perfect family because it's never, it,
Nothing is perfect.
yeah. But for me, like the reason I didn't leave my marriage was because I was scared. I built this fantasy in my head of how a family should be, and I was scared that I failed in my mind. And there,
Interesting.
yeah, I could have avoided years of abuse. I could have avoided all of that. I'm not beating myself up for that because everything happens in divine timing, and it took me time to understand that. And I needed to fail in order to succeed. I needed to feel, that.
Just that, uh, people probably hear this and know this, but
Yeah,
that whole thing, I need to fail in order to succeed.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people um, are so petrified of failure. The fear of failure stops them actually ever really succeeding um, in their chosen endeavors. Their success is kind of here, whereas their success could be right up there, whether it's with a family or health or financial career, whatever it is, because the fear of failure, and for me, that kept me playing small for a long time. You just set the bar just so high so you don't fail, and
yeah.
it's the idea. So I really, that's a great, I just love that great reminder. I had to fail in order to succeed, and the world's top entrepreneurs and business owners and sports people all say it's the failures that built their success. It's built that muscle of winning.
Yeah, and it doesn't really get easier, that
Yeah,
fear of failing because it still exists. You're still scared of it, but you know that just
it's part of the process.
Jana. I'm from a divided office, so
Okay, no problem. Yeah,
system.
we got a couple more minutes, just a couple more minutes. So yeah.
Yeah, sure, no problem. But if you see someone in the background, that's the
Okay.
reason. Um, you just get used to going through your limits. Okay, so it's like working out in the gym. So the other day, yesterday, was my squats day. And I have this exercise when I'm squatting that I reach a certain weight and then I put a little bit extra, and every day I surpass the limits. So the first time I was scared shitless because I'm not going to be able to lift that. I'm going to, so I did a little increment and I managed to push through. I was really proud of myself. The next time I did it, I was still scared. I was like, how am I going to be able to do that? This is an extra one. But I did it last time. So I look myself in the mirror and I say, you can do it. Have the courage. If you can't do it, at least you tried, right? There is always the risk that I'll fall down and break my back, so to speak, in that moment. And I pushed through, and I did it. And this is the same thing in your real life, you know. The risk to fail, the fear of failing would still be there, but you knowing that you can push through because you've done it before. Because in the end of the day, the most fearful thing about fear is fear itself. And when you face it, you can turn it into courage. And you're like, okay, you know, give me your best shot, fear. What is your worst fear? And, you know, this time of life, 2021, reaching 2022, we are faced with our worst fears. We are faced with things that can go wrong, and all the interior fears that you have will start to come out and to test you, because this is the way life is nowadays. It's transformative here. So facing those fears and pushing through, even in case that you fail, the worst case scenario will happen. That is what brings you to the next level. You won't get to the next level if that muscle doesn't grow. You won't get to the next squat if you don't put that and you say, okay, I can push through. Otherwise, you remain in the same place. You either grow or go.
Yeah, I
You
love
know, it's
that.
always everybody.
Grow or go.
Yeah.
So, Mirav, we're running out of time, but can you very quickly sort of just explain what your how you work, what your coaching is all about? So, you know, I know you've got lots of different types of programs, but just in a nutshell, what are you offering when in your coaching business?
In a nutshell, my specialty is helping people to remember and connect to their power and bring it out physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically in a way that they can reach their goals and live an unstoppable life. I have many ways to do that. I work on sexual power, for example, because that has been a very important part of my life.
Wow.
I believe that flows into every area of your life. I work on the mindset, on unstoppable mindset. I work on improving your health physically, and while doing that, doing mental exercises, which is something that I have done all through, you know, the life coaching that I've been doing. I don't have enough time to work on my body and on my mind separately. You know, I'm a single mom, an entrepreneur, and I have a very busy life. So I use my physical training time to work on my mind. In the same time, I do my affirmations, my mantras, my writing. There's methods of switch words, tapping, everything. I do that while I'm training. So my training time is really, really valuable for me. So that I implement into my training. I also in my training I teach face yoga and eye yoga. So while you are training, you are looking younger and feeling younger, because you know it improves also how we uh, how we move, how we perform, rejuvenating all your body and cells,
Wow.
reversing age. So these are different courses that I run, as well as my one-on-one mentorship, in a way that each person can work on specific goals while becoming the best version of self.
I sometimes wonder how, I mean, I'm blown away by how much you pack into a day around your beautiful girls and all the
It's
stuff
not
that you
easy.
do. And the big thing we haven't even touched on is that you're also an author of 5 books. So we're going to have to get you on again and talk about your books that you've written, and you've co-authored with other people as well. So
Thank you,
this
sir.
you know, um, here is proof that there is, you know, if you set your mind to something, you can achieve it.
Yeah, a little
And
secret. I wrote most of my books in the gym on my arms or in the shower, because while I was training, I was like, I need to write about this. I need to do this. I would record notes. I would write it, like you would see my whole arms written. I would see my here you can see it, live example. This is my gym program, and near the notes about how much weights are like different ideas and things like
all
that.
right.
you know, your mind is only as sharp as your body allows it to be. So when I'm working the body, this is why we always have ideas under the shower, because it's tapping into our energy, and it's working also on our
That's
circulation.
me. Yeah.
And writing a book, for me, everyone should have at least one book published. It's part of your legacy, it's part of your story, and it's your gift to the world. So that was something that it was so easy for me to do because I have so much to say.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just like doing everything together and getting it out there. And that's the part of facing one of your fears of how would people judge me if they see my story, if they know what I have to say, even if it's just professional material. There are so many that are better than me and so on. That was me like, okay, you know what, facing my fear with courage, getting my story out there, even my personal story, my autobiography, Undefeatable, very personal. I wrote there extremely personal stories. I was so scared that my family would judge me, which they did, and that they won't talk to me, which they haven't. But I faced it face to face because, you know,
Yeah.
your voice
And you've moved
matters.
on. Yeah.
And it wasn't to become a bestseller. It wasn't to sell thousands of copies. It was to get it out there and to not be afraid of my own voice. And this is, you know, one thing that I think it's very powerful to each one of us.
I love that. That's a great place to finish. Not to be afraid of your own voice. I think that is so powerful.
Even if it shakes.
Yeah, Mirav, it's been fascinating chatting to you. I think what we need to do is get you on again in the new year. And thank you for sharing your story, your insights, your experience, and your wisdom with the Freedom Legacy Group. And look forward to speaking to you soon. I'm going to put your links below this recording, folks. If you want to connect with Mirav, then just follow the links below. But thank you very, very much. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Finn, and good luck, everybody.
Speak soon.
Bye.